and gentlemen, welcome on into another fantastic episode of Bar Talk. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, happy Thursday, happy Friday, happy Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whenever it is that you are listening to this. I hope you are having the best day ever. And guys, if your day isn't going the way that you want it to go, remember, you can decide to turn it around. It's totally your call. Okay, episode 102. I hope everyone can feel the love and gratitude beaming through your headphones, through your speakers, TV, iPhones, Samsungs, for all of those people who love to have the green text messages that totally ruin the group chat. I'm still beaming my love to you. And that is because this podcast is only possible because of you guys. So truthfully, from the bottom of my heart, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you. So today's episode, I'm really excited about. We are having on Karsta Lowe. She is a pro volleyball player and Olympic medalist for Team USA. I have been following Karsta for some time now, and I always knew that I wanted to have her on Bar Talk. I always get these kind of gut feelings, to be honest, about people. And honestly, Karsta was one of them. And if you guys have been around me for a while, or if you follow me on any of my social medias, you know that I'm a huge fan of TED Talks. Whenever I've occasionally fallen down YouTube rabbit holes of TED Talks. It's one of my things that I do, along with Architectural Digest is welcome into my house. You can easily fall down those rabbit holes for hours, and they're very hard to get out of. So just a heads up. Anyways, I saw Karsta's TED Talk and loved it. And I was like, I need to have her on Bar Talk. So let me start off by saying this. Either pause the podcast now, which I can't believe I'm telling you guys to leave the podcast, but I am, because I want you to listen to the TED Talk, because I think it'll help you better understand kind of the subtext that we're talking about. If you want to keep listening through, which is totally fine. You can go and listen to it after, but I encourage everyone to go and listen to the TED Talk, which is going to be linked in the show notes and in the description. But I wanted to play you guys a small clip from it that made me know Karsta needed to come on Bar Talk.
It's the light of your life, and you've got all this attention on you, and coaches and staff, but no one knew that I was struggling off the court. And I was, checking the locks of the Olympic Village, of our dorm room, because I was just stressed. I didn't think they were locked. I don't know. And finally, after having some problems in my relationships and my job, volleyball, one of my friends urged me to go see a therapist. And I did. And the same day, the psychologist, she diagnosed me with OCD and anxiety. And that easy. And I know that psychologists, they get this this stigma that they over-label, but she was just that certain that I had OCD and anxiety. And it's okay. There's symptoms on WebMD. You can look it up, it's normal. But that was the first part of awareness, of normalization of what I was struggling with, but truly just the beginning.
In this conversation, we talk about radical acceptance. What is that? And basically how adding it into Karsta's life has changed her and helped her in many ways. We discuss the relationship she has with her height and the journey of learning to love her tall self. And, I'll give you a little preview, but as a former volleyball player, when you're 5'7", you always want to be 5'11". And what I found out from Karsta was, as someone who is basically 6'4", 6'5", she wanted to be 5'11". So there must be some magic height or magic power in 5'11", which is what I always wanted, but I'm good with my 5'7" self now. And you'll hear about the height journey. So stay tuned for that. Karsta also made some incredible comments about how we aren't doing enough for athletes in terms of mental health. And I'm going to be really honest with you guys. This part of our conversation surprised me in a really good way, and in an also very shocking way that I guess I didn't see coming. So stick around for that part. We also end with some fun, ridiculous, random rapid fire questions, and I give you all an unexpected bourbon lesson. You are welcome. So yes, Enjoy the bourbon. I love the bourbon. I have all mine still back over there. So hang around if you guys need a bourbon lesson towards the end of that as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into my conversation with Karsta Lowe. Before that, I have a few announcements that I like to make very quickly. Number one, if this is your first time listening to Bar Talk, guys, hello, welcome on into the bar. If you are a returning regular or customer of mine, guys, welcome back. I love having you here. I have so much gratitude for all of you showing up, listening, watching, sharing, you name it. I appreciate it. For anyone, if it is your first time, guys, welcome on in. And I hope you enjoy the conversation that we're about to have. Number two, I would love it if you could hit the follow button on wherever you get your podcast from. Follow, leave a 5-star rating, leave a little review. It'll take 30 seconds out of your day, and it would seriously mean the absolute world to me, guys. It helps in the podcasting algorithm, just, helping to get more people coming to the bar, which is what I always like. For my YouTube people, hello, it's me. I'm done. I'm not singing. I'm not Adele. I should learn this by now, but I haven't. If you are one of my YouTube people, guys, make sure you subscribe, thumbs up this video, write a little comment, and then make sure you also hit the bell button to be notified when new videos come on up. And then if you guys want to follow Bar Talk, it is at Bar Talk with Jenna across the board. We are on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. If you're not quite sick of hearing from me yet, I would really appreciate if you guys would follow us along there. We basically take the long podcast, slice it on up for you guys, give you short little sweet little nugget bites, and you're always notified when there is a new episode that comes out. And I always have new drink videos ready for you on Friday, getting you ready for the weekend. Okay. Stay until after my conversation with Karsta for a segment I like to call Here's a Tip for You. And then lastly, BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, and events with no mark odds and lines. Find reviews and news for every league, including MLB, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sport, esport, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information, from live in-game betting, prompts, and futures. Head to BetOnline today or use the mobile device to join today and make your first sports bet. Use promo code BELIEVE50 to receive 50% off your welcome bonus. Okay, BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, guys, that is my introduction for you. Let's go ahead and get onto this conversation now. Enjoy. I'll say this, Karsta, I always knew I wanted to have you on Bar Talk for some time. Seriously, I did. But I knew I needed to make this happen when I heard your TED Talk, which everyone needs to go listen to and or watch. But I want to highlight one of the areas of the TED Talk that really stood out to me. And that is this idea of radical acceptance, which I had never heard of. So radical acceptance is defined as this. It rests on letting go of the illusion of control and the willingness to notice and accept things as they are right now without judgment. How has this practice changed your life?
So obviously radical acceptance is a huge mantra for me now. I based my whole TEDx talk around it. I wanted there to be a take-home message for people that they could remember and obviously implement in their own life. It was brought to me by my new therapist. My mom had also heard of it, doing some mental health work, and it encompasses so much. And I think you could put mindfulness under the umbrella of because it's, letting go of control, being aware of reality, accepting reality, and just letting it exist. But I think for me personally, with my journey, with mental illness, it was so important to first accept. First you have to have awareness of what you're struggling with, which is really, really hard. And some people go their whole lives not knowing that they have a mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
But then once you have that, and hopefully as we get more research out there, people are going to start to know sooner. And then this is the trickier part, is truly accepting it and seeing it for what it is. I think once you can truly radically accept something. And it's an ongoing journey. Every day I'm radically accepting, all pieces of me, but it allows space for change. I think once you can really radically accept something, you can do something about it. Like, okay, I am super, super struggling. I need to go on medication, or I need to try something new, or see a different therapist, or quit my job, like whatever it is. I think we need to first have like true awareness and acceptance of it to do something about it. So it's been, I mean, it was an integral piece of my journey, and I still work on it daily, like this is me, this is who I am, and truly accepting all sides of you, not just illness and, but like radically accepting how tall I am was always a long journey, like you can really implement it anywhere.
Yeah. I actually do want to talk about your height, but I don't want to talk about it yet because
Okay.
the one thing that, like, the word that stuck out to me the most is that control. And I feel like control is an illusion that we on this earth have like made to feel like, again, like we like control. We like to know that we can get from point A to point B in this singular motion, right? And that's how everything is. But I think when you really start to, at least for myself, when I've really started to like look within and look within my own, like sense of self and my own sense of spirituality, you realize like there is no control. There is just like now what is in front of you. And again, I know for myself as someone who I would like define myself as a like recovering control freak. Because I was like, if you talk to any of my siblings, they were like, I don't know how you're doing what you're doing right now because you are the most like controlling by the
Mhm.
neck person. And I think there's a
A
lot of
lot of
people,
athletes are.
a lot
A
of
lot of
athletes are,
athletes
because
especially.
we're so used to this, like, okay, we have one season, we have to accomplish this goal. These are the goals that we need to accomplish. And again, because we know, like, it's a direct correlation. Like there is a direct correlation between me winning and me losing. And me winning is I've done all of the steps necessary, and me losing is you didn't do enough. Go back to the gym, go back to the weight room, go back to the whiteboard, and figure out what you can do more of. But when you like get off the court, like that's not real, like
Yeah, it
it's just,
doesn't work.
it doesn't work that way. So I know for me, I've had to figure that out. But the question that I guess I have with what I'm trying to say right now is like, how have you learned, or how are you learning? Because it is an everyday thing. How are you learning to let go of that illusion of control?
It's a great question. Mm, I think a lot of it comes down to presence and being present in your daily life. Like, I hate to bring it. Oh my God, my dog is hi.
Someone's
You
like,
want
I
to
need
say
a
hi?
moment, please.
She'll say hi later. No, I think being really present in your daily life is something that has really helped me. I mean, talk about control. I have OCD, so I am like the most. I mean, like I get so anxious when I don't have control over things. And so I've really worked recently on like trying to be more alive and present in my daily life and not get so caught up in like the details of the future and when am I gonna meet my soulmate and like all this like shit. And it's like that is not up to me. And I am one person of 8 billion and so small in the universe. And the universe is so much bigger than me that of course I don't have control. I'm just, a little pawn on earth, like figuring it out. And so, I think it can be a very spiritual experience for you. You brought up spirituality, like, finding something that you can believe in that's bigger. It doesn't have to be God or, but it's something that you don't have that much control, and that's a good thing. Like you don't want so much, like that's when, your ego gets over involved and you start to try to control too much and then you get depressed and anxious. And it's like really being able to let go of that is huge. I mean, the moments that I feel like present and just experiencing life instead of trying to like curate all of it is, the most like joyful and fulfilled I've ever felt. So it's a daily practice, but I think it's
totally worth it.
It is. And being present is hard. And I think, it's not the full factor, but a factor is our phone, because it's so easy to like detach from the now. But I know like this past weekend I went glamping, and
love that.
so much fun. I left my phone in my glamping tent, and I said, I am with 9 amazing women, and I am just going to be like present. And it was, what was so great about it was like, I kind of do like a present inventory check from time to time. And I'm like, okay, what am I smelling? And I'm like, I'm smelling tequila.
This is so like, I love this. This is so mindful of you.
I'm like, we're
tequila.
One of them's tequila.
Being real.
Well, it's this guy. This was the bottle. We didn't finish it, but that's the bottle of tequila that was with me this weekend.
Why is it under your desk?
Well, this is my bar.
Oh, that's literally your bar. Oh my God, amazing. Okay.
Yeah, we have a full inventory. Next time you're in town, you can pick what you want and make it. There's a mini cooler right here too with wine.
Love that.
I have way too much alcohol, and like I don't drink it all. It's just all of it's here. But anyways, I'm smelling.
You are a true Chicagoan.
Oh,
a true Chicagoan.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But anyways, like tequila, the moon. It was the super moon. The stars were full. Everyone was laughing. That like smell of like fresh wet grass, like almost mildewy. And I just was like looking around, and everyone's laughing, and I was like, this is like being now. And again, like I had no control over, like when I was getting ready to go to this trip, I was like, oh my God, it's glamping. Are you kidding me? Like you really, you expect me to go camping? Like I'm a diva. This is not going to work for me. Like, I just don't think I'm here for this. And it was hands down the best weekend of my life. Like, so again,
amazing.
But it was like, I think part of that was like every person was fully present in the moment, and I had no control over the weather, who was going to show up, if I was going to like I had no control. I literally like Venmoed someone money, and I was like, just someone tell me where to go. And like,
yeah, trips be like that. It's like, well, what's going to happen? Who knows? Get on the plane or like get in the car.
Yeah. And then one more thing with this radical acceptance, then I do want to move on. But again, I love anything with a list. And I think people love lists because it's something that we as humans can like compartmentalize and we can remember. And your 3 things for radical acceptance, which you kind of touched on, but I wanted to just like highlight them again. Number 1, accepting the reality is what it is, which is so true. And it's so hard because part of that means like being honest with yourself, you know? Totally. Number 2, accepting that the event or situation causing pain has a cause. Can you elaborate on that one a little bit?
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, I obviously didn't come up with this. This is like Marsha Linehan, who's like a genius. She had bipolar disorder and she figured out a way to like integrate it into her life. And she's amazing. It's like dialectical behavior therapy. And this one I think is difficult, and I think has a lot to do with awareness. And I think when we have a negative feeling or thought, we always, first of all, it can be very confusing. Like we don't really know why. And then we usually attribute it to like our ego comes in and attributes it to something we're doing or like something we have control over. And it's like, nope, you don't. It's something else that's, informing this feeling. Or so the example I used in my TEDx thing was I had a summer growing up that I was obsessed with death. And I just like, it was the scariest thing to me. I thought about it every day, 24/7, and I just couldn't get it out of my head. And I remember feeling so like ashamed and alone in that moment. And obviously, like as a 10-year-old, you can't coach yourself and say, oh, well, the only reason you feel like this is because you're having existential distress. But I think it's very important to understand that an emotion comes from something. It's not, just spontaneous. Like, and I think that lets you start to kind of unpack it, dissect, and figure out, okay, do I want that stimulus gone? I mean, obviously when something like death you can't control, but like, is it something I want to detract from my life? Is it something I need to just change, reframe, like whatever? I think it's really about having like the awareness, and it is so hard, I think, as someone who has struggled with this my whole life, like really being able to dissect where a feeling is coming from it's a skill. And I think with all of these things, you have to be gentle with yourself, like as you start to piece it together and figure out, okay, this is my reality, and it has a cause that I can not control, but I can maybe change. I can talk about in therapy. Like, what is the thing? I think is huge.
Identifying a feeling, even like I have you ever seen the movie is it Inside Out, the Pixar movie?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I feel like that is how my brain actually functions with those little people. We're like running around in my mind. And, I think sometimes we're as kids, we're always taught like about joy and like kind of sadness, but then you get into like the feelings of anger, of anxiousness, of loneliness. And it's like, how do these feelings come up? And again, as humans, and the way that our brains work is like, we need to be able to like label these feelings so we can identify what the pain is that's being caused inside. But the being able to do it is what you said. It's that grace and like being kind to yourself, because like it's a skill and it does not happen overnight. And it's being willing to like sit in the like uncomfortableness and like the like ickiness that like of these feelings that come up.
Sure. Yeah. It's a lifelong process. I mean, like, I think let's use like an example. Like, I think we could, if we wanted, like, I don't know, do you have something in your life that you thought of when you saw those 3 steps? Like, I don't know if that helps, but like just to flesh it out, that might help for listeners.
Yeah. Well, I will say this. I had an incident happen to me back in March where I got a job offer, and it was not a job. It was like someone had sent me this job, and it was basically to host a reality show. And I was like, I don't know if that would be me, but like, okay, let's throw my hat in the ring. Like, what's the worst they say?
Right.
No. So I kept reaching out. And finally they were like, oh, we've started the show in LA, but we're thinking about doing one in Chicago. Let's jump on a call. And so basically the call ended where I was like, so did I get the job? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, oh my God, like, are you serious? And they were like, yeah. And so they were like really excited and like, let's get this going. And part of my spidey senses were like, pause, don't go. And I was like, okay. So I didn't tell anyone, told my mom. I followed up the next morning with like, hey, when will your like PR, or like, person be reaching out to me to go over like salary, benefits, all that stuff. And they came back with, yeah, we can't pay you. So
This is a pro bono. This is for free.
I'm like 30. I can't really afford that. But so I was like, I sat in so I was like, I want to sit in what this feels like right now. Right. Because first I was really sad, but I also knew at the same time, I was like, this just means something better is coming. But then anger came up, and I like sat in my anger, and I was like, no, we're going to fucking stew in this bitch. And I sat in it, and I was like, oh, okay, let's see how you feel. And what was amazing about sitting in my anger was identifying to me that this person, this group, this organization is trying to take advantage of the skill set that you have. Do not let that happen. Put your foot down, stand up for your value and your worth, because you know what it is. And I would have never have understood that had I not sat in my anger and let my anger like come up to the surface.
Yeah. And so you first had to be like, this is what's happening. They said I'm not going to get paid. Like, be present, be aware of like what's actually happening. And then you had to like, okay, I have this like really intense feeling. Where is this? Like, why? Where is this coming from? And you realize you're like, I don't feel valued. This isn't good. And then I think the third step is like
accepting life can be worth living even with painful events.
Right. And it's like, okay, I don't have to take this job. It's not going to ruin or, make my career, and I'm going to keep living my life, and life's still going to be good. I love that.
Yeah. So I always say anger. I don't like when anger comes up, but she's the best teacher.
It can be powerful.
She can be a powerful SOB, total powerful SOB.
Yes. Yes.
And then, number 3 is accepting life can be worth living, even with painful events. And I think part of that is, we have scars and they're like they're beautiful wounds, and you have to, it's okay to look at them and be reminded of what you've learned.
Yeah. Everyone has them. Like everyone, whether they want to admit it or not, has like trauma and shit they're carrying around every day.
Oh my God. So true. And again, it's like the world could benefit from all of us being just a teensy bit kinder to one another.
Yeah,
Just
for
a
sure.
teensy bit. So you said
sure.
About your height, and I know it was like one summer you obsessed over your height. And as a former volleyball player who is 5'7", and all she wanted to be in life was I was like, if I was 5'11", my whole life would be so different. If I was 5'11", things would be like drastically different.
I had that same thought though. I was like, if I was 5'11", I would be happier.
But so again, how has your relationship changed with your height and with like accepting this part of who you are?
Yeah, so I'm like 6'4", I could probably pull for 6'5" if I wanted to. And actually I've started telling people 6'5" when they ask. I'm just like, screw it, I'm 6'5". And I think growing up was very difficult. I was taller than all the boys. I was like, I never like dated. I mean, like I had like crushes and like prom dates and like dates, but I didn't like have a boyfriend in high school, like all this shit. Sorry, I'm cussing.
It's called bar talk. It's called bar talk. You're good here.
Great. Love it. But yeah, so like that period, it was in high school that I had a summer where I obsessed over my height, and I felt it everywhere I go. I mean, you really can't escape your own body, and when you're this tall, it garners a lot of attention and comments, and my whole life people have been making comments about my height, and still every day, like someone in public, makes a comment or whatever. But I think a couple things, like I've neutralized how I feel about it. And honestly, I've come to like it and realize that radically accept it's a piece of me. It's never changing. I'm literally never going to be shorter. I'm never going to be 5'11". Like that was my like childhood dream, like 5'10". And like, this is me, and I don't want to be anyone different. Like I'm radically accepting Karsta as a 6'5" person. And I think also I just, like I said, I neutralized it. I mean, I've had a lot of issues with like body image, and that's been wrapped into height and eating disorder stuff. And I think I'm proud of myself in that I've adopted a more neutral perspective on my body. Like this thing is literally not forever. Like I'm gonna die, and like it always comes back to death. Sorry, but like my body is temporary, and to spend so much time obsessing over it and like wanting to be this like exact model of something is a super big waste of time and can be very depressing. Like it's not worth spending time on. And so I think I've neutralized what my height means to me. It's just my height, it's nothing more. And yes, it garners attention and blah blah blah, but it also helped me become an Olympian and makes me very unique. And I think it's something now that I love about myself. It's because it's a piece of me. And yeah, but it's been a long journey. It wasn't always like this. And I always say, like, my niece is 2 years old and she's really tall already. And she's like the height of a 3-year-old. And I'm like, oh man, this poor girl, like is she gonna go through it like I did? And I'm like, she's gotta call me up if she ever needs to have the convo, because I think it can be very empowering to see a tall woman who is like confident and comfortable in her skin. And I wear heels, I mean, not like 5 inches, but I wear like heeled shoes. And yeah, I love it. I mean, being taller than everyone's fun.
It is fun. I mean, I was surrounded by very tall people for the time I was 12
You're
until
tall for an average person.
I'm tall for an average person. And like my neighborhood is all Italians and Irishmen, and no one is above like 5'4". Like everyone is a little meatball and a tiny little shrimp. So I come in and people are like in my armpit, and I'm like, but then I would be around my, like, I remember the first time like a group of my girlfriends came to a tournament of mine, and the team, we were in Wisconsin Dells, and our team was staying in like a suite, and our tallest girl answered, who is 6'4". And my friend is literally like 5'2.5". And she was like, your snack. She's like, your snacks. We're Jenna's friends. We're here dropping off your snacks. And
that's so cute.
It was like adorable. But again, I was always, because I was always the short one, I was always like this. I like stood up like super tall, like on my tiptoes, like shoulders back. Like I was like, no, I need to make sure that like I'm up there, because everyone's having conversations up there that I can't hear. And I need to make sure that everyone knows I want to be in these conversations. But no, and like now accepting your body and accepting that, like, one, it's beautiful, and you're able to do all of these things because of the body that you have here on earth. And you know, you kind of highlighted it on a little bit, but like that journey of self-love, like it's everyone, man, woman, short, tall, doesn't matter, skinny, fat, like everyone has to come to their own kind of realization and journey of like, this is who I am. This is the body that I'm in. And like, this is the one I got. So like, I gotta be good to her or him.
And so much is genes. Like, it's like, I have you again, back to control. It's like, I heard 90% of your body is like genetically, I don't know if this makes sense, but like genetically, informed. Like then the 10% is like lifestyle, food, whatever.
And yeah, like I'm guessing your parents are probably tall, and maybe your mom's side of the family is tall and your dad's side of the family is tall. Yeah, like, and that's just how it is. And it's like, can you give yourself grace and love it? Or are you just going to be mean to yourself doing it?
Yeah, pointlessly, because you can't change most of those things.
No, you can't. No, you cannot. So you're getting ready to play. And is it in China in September? Is that correct?
Japan.
Okay. So you've had a break. How long has this break been?
I got home from Puerto Rico in mid-July. So I've been about a month. Yeah. And then I'll have a couple more weeks, and I leave September 9th. So yeah, about a month and a half off, which it's been great.
It's been great. Good. So again, it's not a huge break, but I always think there's something beautiful about like stepping away from something that you love, because you can come back with just a different perspective and maybe fresh eyes. So with this time that you've, had off, what about the game, or I guess just like, what have you learned from this time away?
That's a great question. I think, for one, as you said, it has kind of renewed, like, I'm excited to play volleyball again, which is such a cool feeling. I'm almost 30 and I've been doing this for so long, and I actually have like excitement to get on the court again. I mean, that, and I'm really grateful for that. And I think this time has taught me the importance of independence. I have been, I was in Chicago. I'm my home base is Chicago, and now I'm in LA. But I'm traveling a lot and I'm alone a lot. And I've really tried to kind of restructure the narrative of like, spending time alone doesn't have to be lonely. And that has been really impactful for me this summer. And then, I'm hoping, obviously, this is all to like carry over to Japan, where I'll be the only foreigner on my team. And I will be feeling, extremely isolated and alone at times, but how can I still feel connected to my surroundings and the world and my friends, etc.? And that's been a really fun exercise.
Yeah. There's something beauty in being alone. Like I come from a very large family where we're just all on top of each other, like in like the most beautiful way. but it probably wasn't until the pandemic that I was like, this is the first time I'm ever really like alone with my thoughts and alone with me. And when you learn how to be comfortable in your own presence, it's addictive. Like I found it
Mhm.
to be addictive. And I'm now at the point where I'm like, oh, I gotta go out. Okay, fine. All right, I guess I'll go be with people because
Yeah.
I enjoy my own company. But again, for you, you'll be so far away that I think, and again, it sounds like it's like it's finding that balance of like enjoying your alone time, but also making sure that you're being present with the people that you're around, especially in a foreign country.
And connecting with your loved ones, I think that's a very underrated um like activity in life, like checking in with, I mean, some people are really good about it, but like staying connected to the really close people in your life, I think is another really important thing. Like you can go around and be around strangers all day, but that doesn't mean you're going to feel like connected to humanity.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, people, think about people's jobs. Like you can have conversations, but are they actually conversations that are like meaningful and impactful? Or are they just words filling space?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So much of like work and corporate life is like, just chatter about random, meaningless money things.
Oh my God. Nope. I'm learning a little bit of that right now. And that's interesting.
Oh, really? Yeah. Yeah.
That's all we'll say. Okay. So obviously, and you alluded to this earlier, but like mental health is something that you're very passionate about. And it's something that I've been on my, we'll say, mental health journey. It started in 2016, 2015. Oh my God. Look
I know. Hi, Red. Red needed to say hi.
at
Hi.
Of course
Okay,
she
sorry.
or he.
She.
She,
Yeah.
hi, Red. She's like, Mom, love me. Let me kiss
I know.
you.
I haven't given her enough attention this morning. Okay, sorry. 2015,
2000,
16. I'm
yeah.
with you.
So 2015 and 2016 was probably the first time in my life that I was really honest with myself and had that like tough look in the mirror of like, yeah, I'm not okay. And like, I'm not okay
Mhm.
because of this. And I gotta like figure this out. Cause for myself, it was like every relationship I tried to had didn't work. I couldn't open up to people. Nothing that I wanted in my life wasn't like nothing was happening. I just felt very stuck and very stagnant. And I knew it was a direct correlation to my mental health. So I'm just curious, like, what was the first conversation you had with yourself about like getting honest with your mental health?
Super interesting. I struggled from a very young age, as I've mentioned. Like I think I OCD runs in my family, so I think from a child I was like having issues that like normal children do not. But I don't think I really got real with myself till I was in China. I was playing volleyball professionally in China in 2016, 17, and I was at one of the worst stages of my life. And I wouldn't say it was like my rock bottom of mental health, as I've talked about my TEDx thing. It was like
Mhm.
more COVID 2020, but it was when I first started seeing a therapist, and it was what finally was the kicker was I was like not sleeping because I was literally going pee 20 times every night. Like that's how anxious and like unpeaceful I was in my life, in my heart. I felt like, such a foreigner in China, and I was really struggling. And it was like these nighttime rituals. Red, stop. It was these nighttime rituals that were making me lose sleep, which is very important for volleyball, that I first really thought this can no longer happen. Like this needs to be addressed. And I didn't even know I had OCD actually until around that time. I was diagnosed 24. And then all of a sudden, like all the pieces clicked, and I was like, oh my gosh, I've been struggling with this my whole life. Like finally a psychologist was like, bringing back old things and labeling them, which can be very healing. So I think at that point, that was when I first sort of realized, oh, like it could be better than this. Like this is very normal and there are things to do that will help. But obviously that was like just the very first step. And it was so long until I really think I found quote unquote healing in my mental health journey.
What have been the tools? Because I feel like part of therapy is like, I don't see my therapist anymore. And we like came to that conclusion together where she's like, Jenna, you've done everything you've wanted to achieve. You have the tools. It's time for you to go. And I was like, is my like mom kicking me out of the nest? Like, what the fuck's happening? Like,
am I getting broken up?
like, that's what it felt like. But she was right.
Yeah.
She was like, you have the tools, you have the tool set. And I think that's the biggest thing is like having that toolbox of things that you can go back to. What have been some of the tools that like you have in your box now that you use kind of daily?
Okay, well, the first one, because I really want to normalize this, is medication. I am on SSRIs, which are antidepressants, but they're also used to treat OCD and anxiety. So I am on a high dose of them, and it has been extremely helpful for me. And my goal one day is to wean off of them and not need them anymore, but that is not a reality for me right now. And I have found immense help with them. They're not everything, but they are. I think they're just like a little Kickstarter. And so that's one thing, that's a big tool that I use. And I think, medication's overprescribed, but can be very useful. So there's that. Secondly, I see my therapist every week. And Red, what are you doing? She is like really needing attention. Okay. I see my therapist still weekly. And I think as far as like behavioral tools and also like what's the word, like oh my gosh, my friend just taught me this word, psychosomatic, no, okay, well, whatever, I can't think of it, but
I feel like I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, like the thinking tools basically.
Yeah.
Okay, so like the thinking tools that I've used, I would say they come down mostly to acceptance and self-love. I think self-love and maybe connection have been like the two biggest that have really helped me. And I've found those like through work and therapy. I think medication helped. As I said, I also am trying to like practice mindfulness every day, but that's really hard. But I think that it all kind of boils down to those couple concepts, those tools, like when I can really amplify those feelings in my life. I think self-love being one of the biggest, and so different than confidence or, cockiness. Like loving the deepest parts of myself has been the most healing thing for my mental illness, because most of my anxieties and obsessions center around not being enough, not being loved, and feeling alone. So the more that I amplify, I'm not alone, I'm connected to the people around me and my world and what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, my job, etc. And I'm loved by myself and by my loved ones. I'm fortunate to have such a great community around me of, my people. And although we're not ever in one place at the same time, it's a very comforting thing. So I think those two, like love and connection, have like really helped me to feel okay in my own body day to day, and not have an existential crisis every day. Because there were points in my life where I was having, I mean, trust me, I still do have like existential breakdowns or whatever, but like it used to happen every day. And now it's sometimes I'm just like, I had a great, like fulfilled routine day, like awesome.
Self-love is it's loving the parts of you that are even a little ugly. And that's
Mhm.
and part of my French, but like, that's fucking hard. You know, it's
Yeah.
loving that side of you that can get angry, that is, you know, has the obsessive compulsive disorder. It's loving the good and the bad. But again, it's like, we're with us forever. So no one's, it's like, I always say, like, it's the one relationship that I'm stuck with. It's me. So I
Mhm.
gotta love me, like, all the time, like, no matter what, like,
Yeah.
even on my bad days, like, I still gotta be like, oh, bitch, I love you. You know, it's like being in like that. You're just
And
like,
yeah, and sometimes like difficult relationships can make us not feel loved. Like whether it's parent, child, like whatever, boyfriend, girlfriend, like there's certain triggers that can like make us hate ourselves or make us not love every side of ourselves. You know, it's sometimes external. It's an external stimuli making us feel that way. So I think, and I'm sure, you know, I've made people not love themselves, you know, like we're all victim to it at some point. But I think the more that you can, as you said, like really nurture your relationship with yourself, it's the only one, you know, you have anything you can really do anything about.
it's so true. It's so true. And I think the one thing, you know, like, you just being so open and talking about, you know, mental health and, you know, I always say, it's like, it's rewiring your brain. It's trying to retrain your brain, like retraining your muscles of doing your footwork, doing your approach, or, you know, like all of those things, you have to retrain it. And, you know, more athletes are normalizing this conversation. And I feel for too long, like, people struggled in silence. Like, I know for me, I did, like, I didn't know, like, I knew I was hurting, but I didn't know like how to tell people, because I'm like, I have no reason to be struggling. Like, I have all of these great things. Like, so I'm just going to be quiet. But again, it makes me so happy and like comfortable now to see people talking about it. And I think there's still so much more that can be done, especially from like an athletic standpoint, all the way from professional down to like high school, the club level, travel ball, whatever. But like, I guess, is there anything that like the professional, or not professional, that like the Olympic team is doing, or like any of the professional teams that you're on, where they're like implementing mental health into the training, like you're implementing weightlifting and practice time and like all of that stuff, is like, has anything changed for you?
Um, so I'm not training with the national team currently. So I don't know their exact systems in place. We often work, sports teams work with sports psychologists, or sometimes they're just like psychologists that have sports focus or whatever. Um, and they help with things on the court and like performance anxiety, stuff like that. Wait, is performance anxiety? Whatever. Okay. Um, yeah, same thing. And I, you know, I never found that to be super helpful for me, because I think that mental health is so deep and complex, that I am in the camp that if you're really, really struggling, you have to commit some serious time to talk therapy, to really find healing. And so I know that psychologists that have worked with the national team have said, you know what, this, I wasn't told this, but I think you're struggling with something deeper that needs to be, I cannot serve those needs. And I think the sports world is letting us down, and letting professional athletes down in this respect. I think it's a great question. And I know most of my teams were not doing anything for mental health specifically. You know, we worked with psychologists, we had these like meetings every once in a while, but the true resources and information that need to be spread, I do not think are being spread. One, because people don't know like what to do or say or help. Like coaches are not trained in mental health. And I think to your point about when you didn't, like you were kind of scared to tell people, well, I think that's very red. I think being scared to tell people that you're struggling is very natural, and I don't want to say warranted, but most people don't know what to tell you when you
Yeah.
say that. Like, oh, maybe you should talk to someone, but then no one knows how to find a therapist, like, so I think that's where we really have a huge gap in the mental health world, is just like widespread information and resources. And how do I find a therapist? Where do I begin? Do I have to see a therapist? Could it be someone else? Can I see them virtual, in person? Like, these are all questions and answers that I don't think are being disseminated properly. Most of the staff that I have worked with in professional volleyball do not know much about mental health and what goes into it. I think, I was very candid, and they all knew I was on medication, and, et cetera, et cetera. And they'd always encourage, like, oh yeah, Karsta sees a therapist, like, great. But it's not being talked about, and it's not being aided. I mean, not every professional athlete is struggling like with their mental health. Some, do not, but like the most, or like a lot of the population, 1 in 3, a lot of people are struggling. And I just don't think that our world has adapted to this yet, to really help these people find healing. Because whether you're an athlete or, a low income person in a low income neighborhood, it's difficult sometimes to find the resources and find what you really need. I mean, I grew up in a white privileged home, and my dad was a physician, and I still did not find resources till I was 24. Like, that's insane. Like, think about all the people who don't have my privilege, who don't have access to what I have. They are not seeing therapists. I mean, like, and they don't even know what you really accomplish at therapy. So this is why I'm really vehement about this, but I think this is, why I really have turned to mental health advocacy, because I think there's so much work to be done. And I think a lot of it, as you mentioned, starts with vulnerability and telling people there is so much silent struggle happening, and honestly a lot of unconscious silent struggle. People don't even know that their life could be better, and it's heartbreaking. I mean, when you really think about it.
I mean, you hit on so many topics, and I like don't even know where to like begin, because there's so much I want. No, but in like a good way, because I think, the not realizing that like a lot of people are struggling subconsciously, right? And again, you're not aware of it. It's like that. To me, the analogy is like you're stuck on that hamster wheel in life, and you don't even realize that like you can get off of it and know that there's something better out there for you, right? But most people are so stuck in their own routine and their own mundane things that they have to do, that they don't realize like, hey, things can be so much better. Like, you can have such joy, love, fulfillment, self-love, if you're willing to like get off this hamster wheel and figure it out. The resources. I mean, I'll say again, when I started my journey, like it was still, I told like 3 people, and it was my best friend, my cousin who knew someone who had a therapist, and my mom. And and again, it wasn't that I didn't want other people to know. It was like, this is something I need to figure out on my own, and I don't need other opinions coming in. But I think about how lucky I was at the time that like, I can't believe I found someone. Like, yeah, she was like 20 minutes away from me, but like, I had the resources. I was on my parents' insurance, and I only had to pay a $20 copay, which is like another factor into that as well.
Amazing.
Yeah,
and that's rare.
It's
to be able to see a therapist covered with insurance. Yeah.
Exactly. And, I think even now, like one of my buddies, I know he's like, Jenna, I've gone through like 4 therapists because I can't figure out one that like fits with me. And, someone like referred to it as dating. And I was like, I'm sorry, but finding a therapist should not be like fucking dating. It should be like, figure out who you're
it should be like finding a doctor online. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. And I think, again, like you talking about your privilege and the fact that like your dad was a physician, it still took you long enough. And maybe it was because you were, subconsciously struggling and like couldn't admit that to yourself. And I guess, I don't know what the answer is, but I know in life, wherever there is a problem, there is always a solution. Right. And I think, we are really, letting not only athletes down, but I just think we're letting people down. And I go back to like, if we're letting all of these people down and we're letting them like who is struggling right now that needs the help, that is like going to change the world one day, or is going to make like a vibrant impact in their community that their community needs, right? Because I again, for me, I didn't feel like I could do anything until I figured out everything about me first. And by no means am I done, right? Like I'm still figuring my shit out, but I know that I've come a long way where I feel like I can now help people in a way that I couldn't before. But how do you give people the resources? What are the questions that we need to ask? What are the signs to look out for? How do we let people know that like vulnerability is actually like one of the bravest fucking things you can ever do in your life? Like literally. And again, I think part of being an athlete is like, I don't know if anyone said this to you, but I know it was said to me, but it was like, don't ever cry in front of your coach. Don't ever cry in front of your opponent. Don't let anyone see your weaknesses. And when that's beat into your head as a kid, you're just like, yes, soldier on, like you have to. But then I'm suppressing that voice in me. So like, what good is that? So again, it's like, there's so many things that like need to be done. And again, it's like having these conversations that we're having now is the first step. But I mean, God, vulnerability breeds vulnerability. So I just feel like the more people can show, and I think you just being open to having these conversations, like you don't know the people that you're impacting just by you being honest with yourself. And like, maybe it's someone listening to this and they're like, Karsta Lowe is an Olympian and she's struggling and I can relate to her because of this. And like, okay, I'm going to try to find the resources and the tools now to do it because she's done it and she's still doing it. And who knows, maybe I can help or maybe it's going to help me too. And now I feel like I'm talking in circles, but like, I hope that like what I said, like is making any type of sense right now.
No, I so agree with you. And I think it's a great question to ask. Like, how do we help create more information around this and have people that would not normally be exposed to it be exposed? Like, I get sad thinking like, okay, great. Like Naomi Osaka, she's like coming out to the world and saying that she struggles with anxiety, and Michael Phelps, I think that's amazing, but are we reaching the right audiences? Like, are we really, and is that enough? Like we still need more. And I think it'll be a slow process. And I'm encouraged all the time, like people, I think, feel open talking to me about mental health now. And I so appreciate that. And I'm always encouraged every time someone is like vulnerable with me and says, oh yeah, I've struggled with this or blah, blah, blah. Because as you said, I think we're starting this vulnerability, which is so powerful and so difficult. I think the most irksome thing I've ever heard is that like therapy is self-indulgent and like, I mean, this is like my dad believed this, that like therapy was like kind of self-indulgent and like you were, what's the word, like kind of narcissistic, and I actually think that's so wrong on so many levels, obviously. But I think people forget that to be vulnerable and to show a very tender side of yourself is really hard. It's really hard. And I, for some reason, was like blessed with this gift of vulnerability. Like I'm pretty much always myself all the time. And I think that's something that doesn't come naturally to a lot of people because they're scared of rejection and, a million reasons. But I think the more that we can talk, like just use words, and it doesn't have to be public. Like you said, it can be your mom, your best friend, and saying, something's up and I don't know what it is. You don't have to be able to name it and diagnose it. And it just, something isn't quite right. And maybe there's someone who has studied this for years that could help me. Like we forget that, marriage, family therapists, psychologists, they're literally doctors of the brain in a way, like they put so much time into learning about it to literally help people rewire their brain and make changes and use tools. So I just think it's so powerful, and to really be able to lean on other people is one of the best gifts of humanity that we can do and share.
Yeah, having connection. And you brought up something with your dad about, like, you know, I think, like, with Naomi Osaka and Michael Phelps and like a Simone Biles, who have like come out, and like, again, like, how brave for them to come, like, seriously, it's the bravest thing you can do, I think, is to be honest with yourself. And most people go their whole life without, like, unable to be honest with themselves. And then you go on the internet and then you read the comments. And I'm like, I don't want to fight fire with fire, but I think what people have to realize in those comments that you say back to these people who have the courage to say, like, yo, I'm not good and I can't do this, is like, your friends are seeing your comments, your loved ones are seeing your comments. And what we
and
don't,
you're hurting yourself by
you're hurt.
thinking
Yeah.
that way.
And like, you know, I said something one time of like I heard someone, like one of my loved ones say something like, yeah, that person could really, you know, lay down on the couch. And I was like, okay, let's talk about this for a second. And I said, I know you're trying to be funny. I said, and I hear you. I said, but someone is going to hear that, someone that you love, who maybe needs help, and they're going to feel like they can't confide in you because of that comment.
Oh,
and
that's so true. And they're going to think, what are they saying about me?
Exactly. And so I said that, and this person was like, never thought of it that way. Okay, I'm going to be more mindful. And that's it. I think it's just being more mindful of that. Like, you don't always have to have a reaction to something. Like, you don't need to react to someone's pain.
It doesn't have to do with you. Like,
yeah, it has nothing to do with you. But anyways, let's end with some ridiculous, random, rapid fire questions. These are always fun.
Let's do it.
And again,
Love
there's
it.
no like shot clock, but I always say, like, don't take too long to think about it. Okay. Okay. Beautiful. What is the strangest pickup line someone's used on you?
I don't know. Like, did they put HGH in your cereal growing up, or something like that? Like human growth hormone. Like, people usually try to start with my height, and I'm like, not your best.
Try again. Okay. What is your drink of choice?
I this is a terrible answer. I am actually addicted to Diet Coke. And I don't drink a lot of alcohol actually anymore because of mental health reasons, actually. But honestly, Diet Coke, I love it.
Nothing wrong with that. What's the kindest thing a stranger has done for you?
Oh, a stranger has done. I don't know. Like, I've had like fans around. Like, I had a fan in China. She made me this like scrapbook, and it was like pictures of me playing volleyball, and like, she just loved watching volleyball, and I was just so touched that I was able, like, to, you know, she just watching me play volleyball was like inspiring enough for her to like make a scrapbook for me, and I still have it, and that was so sweet, and I'll never forget that.
That's incredible. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Sending love to that little, I assume, little girl.
Yeah, no, she was like a woman.
Oh, well,
There's
still,
like,
it's
okay, in volleyball's huge in a lot of parts of Asia, like huge. So there are like super fans of all ages. But yeah.
oh my God, I love that. Okay. Fill in the blank. My day isn't complete without what?
Diet Coke. I'm just kidding. No, I think connecting with a loved one.
Good. Very good answer. What is the best piece of advice someone has given you?
My dad used to always say, nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Okay. Odd or weird talent?
I'm kind of ambidextrous. Like, I'm left-handed, but I can do stuff pretty well with my right hand.
Can you hit the ball with your right hand?
Yeah, and I'm actually not that bad, but I think that's just because like everything's made for righties, and so like I've been forced to do more right-handed.
Got you. Okay. What is your current favorite TV show?
Ooh. I do indulge in The Bachelorette. I watched it last night, and so I guess The Bachelorette.
That's what I go through phases where I'm like, this is great. I need to numb myself from society. And then I'm like, I just can't do it. You guys, you're killing me.
No. I'm so with you. I kind of like watch it as a joke and like fast forward through things, but there's a guy that I know on it. So I'm always like, what's he gonna say? What's he gonna do?
Well, in that case, I would totally be watching it too, to know what
Yeah.
someone that I know is doing. Okay.
Yeah.
What is on the top of your bucket list?
I would love to go to Africa and like, I don't know, I haven't really thought that before, but like just do a safari. Volleyball never brings you there. So I would love to go there and really explore.
That would be amazing. And I would totally tag along on that trip.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Who should my next guest be?
Another volleyball player? I can help set that up.
Always. I always want more volleyball players. I want to highlight as many
Yeah,
as
I'm
I
like, you
can.
probably have enough, but yeah.
No, there's never enough. Always more. The more the merrier is kind of my motto.
Okay.
I see that you have tattoos. Do you have a favorite tattoo?
Ooh, yeah, I only have two. But I'd have to say my Olympic rings are my favorite, and I got both just in the past year, and I'm very proud of them.
Love it, love it, love it. Okay, fill in the blank. Karsta Lowe is what?
Fun. I don't know. I like being fun. I want to be a fun person.
Fun. Okay, beautiful. And then last question. So whenever I end a show, I always end with this statement, and it's kind of the spine, the backbone to Bar Talk. And it is that we have more in common with each other than we have different. And my goal is through all of these conversations, people realize that. So how do you see us as like humanity having more in common with each other than we have different?
I love that. I think we are all here at the exact same time. Like, you know, like you're alive together right now with the same amount of information technically. So I think that's really powerful, you know, like let's all do this together because we're never all going to be here together again.
Beautiful. I will absolutely cheers to that.
Cheers.
Cheers to my LaCroix and cheers to your Diet Coke.
I know I haven't gotten mine yet today. What's your favorite drink?
Oh God, I'm a seasonal drinker. So right now it's Casamigos Blanco with soda and lime juice, aka ranch water.
Yum.
I love bourbon. I'm like a bourbon snob.
Oh, really?
Give me
That's cool.
Bourbon on the rocks. And then I love wine, like just being a bartender, like I've learned a lot about wine, like the making of wine and the process of it and how it's really similar to the process of making bourbon. And I don't drink
That's
a lot anymore. So I'm like, when I do, I want it to be like, wanted to get the job done a little bit. So.
Yeah. Wait, I'm super intrigued by bourbon. And I have family from like Kentucky, Ohio area.
Ooh.
What if I'm a total newbie, like what brand of bourbon would you go for?
Oh, that's a great question. Okay. So I feel like I always say drinking bourbon is like drinking coffee for the first time, you know, where it's like you want to do it with like, you know, like your first time drinking coffee is like coffee, creamer, and sugar. And then you eventually like weed off the sugar, wean off the creamer, and you figure out like how you like your coffee. And that's how I feel like
it's kind of intense.
Because it's kind of intense at first. Yeah. So I feel like a really good starting point for anyone who's drinking, who like wants to get into bourbon or explore bourbon. I always feel like Makers is a good place. Makers is going to be like a whiskey. But again, I think it's a good place where you do that with like ginger beer or 7-Up or Diet Coke. And then eventually like, I'm going to go down really quick. 1 second. So
yeah, show me the goods.
Got a lot. Okay. This guy, I have too much. Okay. 1, 2. Well, don't judge me. There's a lot.
No, not at all. I love the color of bourbon. Like it's so
rich.
Sensual. Rich.
It's so rich looking. It's sexy.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't have. This is what I got right now.
Wow, this is great.
We got a lot. So one of the ones that I really like, if you're someone who I would say like, I wouldn't have this yet, I would like work up to this, but Angel's Envy is a bourbon that is, it's aged in port wine barrels. So what's cool about that is because it's in these barrels that have wine, there's like certain notes meaning the like way it goes down on your palate, the way you smell it, the way it like sits in your gums and in your teeth that like taste really, really good. But I know if I were to have that right away, I would have been like, oh, this is garbage. Fuck it. So don't do that one right away.
Okay.
This guy I actually really like. I have a liquor lady. Thank you, Nancy. So
Oh my gosh.
Nancy gave me this one. It's called Sagamore Spirit Rye. They are a brand based out of Baltimore. And what I like about this is there's a lot of like really good citrus notes to it where there's a lot of orange. So like this with like, honestly, you could do like this with like club soda and like honestly, like a splash of orange juice, no joke, because there's those like citrus notes already in there. Get a nice orange peel, like ring it along the rim. But this guy is good. This one I really, really like. Gentleman Jack is, I don't like regular Jack because like the last time I had Jack, we ended up with my head in the toilet.
Jack. Yeah,
just regular Jack Daniels, but like Gentleman Jack is a little bit more, it's aged a little bit longer. And that's the thing. Like when you get into whiskey and bourbon, anything that's aged longer is going to be one, more expensive, and two, it's going to be so much more smooth. And you can taste the difference in it. Were you ever a fan of the Vampire Diaries?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did. I watched it as like
the two brothers, Damon and Stefan, created their own bottle called Brothers Bond Bourbon.
God, cool.
So I have them signed.
Actual brothers?
They're not brothers in real life, but so the story behind it is they drank bourbon on the show. They drank bourbon in real life. They bonded over bourbon in real life. And so they wanted to learn about the bourbon making process. So now they have a bottle. And again, my liquor lady got me 3 signed bottles with their names on it that like will never be opened. But so when they first came out, I was like, I'm going to buy it. Cause like, let's give it a chance. And I was like, this is really good. Like, and again, I'm smelling it because like everything is, and like, this is I don't need to drink this right now. I'm still on the clock. But it's so this Brothers
Were you about
Bond.
to have a taste? I was ready for it.
I was about to have a taste. I'm like, wait, do I want to sip? Like I have a call at like in an hour. Wait, fuck it. Let's do it.
Yeah. Like I want to get like your face.
Yeah, like it's just what I like about it.
I can taste it.
So again, there's a little bit of like cinnamon notes to it, but the way that it like coats your tongue, it's like sometimes when you have like, especially really strong liquor, it can be like you're almost like too many Sour Patch Kids in your mouth, right? Whereas like this, it's like it tastes good on my lips. It's like there's like that subtle burn that you want to have, that warmth, but it's not like overpowering. Now this
sexy.
It's so sexy. This I don't bring out for many people. Okay, these are my 2 favorite. So Uncle Nearest is a once enslaved Black man who taught Jack Daniels how to make whiskey and how he came up with the Lincoln County process.
Whoa.
So what's really interesting about the story of Uncle Nearest was Nathan Nearest Green and Jack Daniels created a very unlikely friendship back in those days, because a Black man wasn't friends with white people. Like it just wasn't the case, and they were. And so when Jack Daniels perfected the bourbon, the whiskey making process, he needed someone back at the land to maintain the business, and it was Nathan Nearest Green. And so in all of the history books, Nathan Nearest Green is always credited. But what didn't happen until recently was no one said, who is this guy? Like no one had the nerve to follow up about it. Right. And people followed up. There was a New York Times article that came out basically saying that Jack Daniels had whitewashed their history. And there is this woman by the name of Fawn Weaver who said, I don't think that's right. And she flew to Lynchburg, Tennessee to read the history archives. And people in that tiny town found that a woman who was an author, whose husband was a movie producer, was in town. And basically the great great grandchildren of Jack Daniels are like, why are you here? What do you want? Like, are you trying to like discredit our family name? And she said, I don't think it's true. And I want to know the truth about it. So they found out that the Nathan Nearest Green's family and the Jack Daniels family are friends. They've been friends for a very long time. And she met this family and said, now, like, people know his name. What do you want? And they said, we want his name on a bottle. And what's even more beautiful than this story, because it's the most beautiful story on the planet, is the woman who is the master blender is the title. Her name is Victoria Butler. She is the great granddaughter of Nathan Nearest Green, started her second career at almost 60 years old, and they are winning awards left and right. They're on track to beat Casamigos. So again, I love the bottle. It's so good. I love the story. I'm a sucker for a good story, as you can tell. It's a beautiful story. And I think when I heard this and I got to interview Victoria, I was like, God, it just makes me wonder, like, what other stories are out there that, like, we don't know, right? Because, and there's so many more that we need to know. And like these seeds were planted centuries ago and they're now in like full bloom. And like, how beautiful is it that, like, I get to know this story now, you get to know the story now, more people get to know the story now. And it's just like, you know, his bot, like, next time you go to a bar, you're going to see this and you're going to be like, yeah,
I know the story.
You know the story. Yeah. It's so, and it's, so this one is 100 proof, the 1865, and then the 1884 is 93 proof. And I know that each of the years are significant years. I don't remember what exactly, like, but they have to do with like when he became a free man. I think that this one was when he became a free man. And then this is like when he like perfected a process, or there's something like that. That one I'm not fully certain on. But yeah, like, bourbon is so beautiful. And, you know, like, as Americans, like, it's like kind of our thing, whereas like wine was like, you know, a European thing. But again, I love all alcohol, and I love the process behind it, and the stories that you get to learn as a bartender. And then I get to, you know, share those stories on to other people. So I just think it's like the coolest thing on the planet.
Yeah, I love that. Stories are powerful.
I hope you all took something away from that conversation. And like I said, before the conversation started, I encourage all of you to go and listen to that TED Talk, but not yet. I have one more thing for you, and then you can go and listen to it if you haven't already listened to it yet. One of my favorite segments that I like to do for you guys is my Here's a Tip for You. You know me, I'm a bartender. A tip, you know, you give me a tip, I give you a tip. If you don't get it, I can't help you. You can leave now. But basically, here's a tip for you. No path is the wrong path. What do I mean by that? No matter where you go in life, right or left, up or down, north, south, east, west, sorry guys. That is the path that you are meant to go. Walk confidently in the path that you are on, and know that where you're going is exactly where you're meant to go. So, like I said, no path is the wrong path. Just enjoy the path. Guys, thank you so much for listening. And I hope you all take the time today to realize that we have way more in common with each other than we have different. I will see you next time. Take care.
Hey, everybody, it's closing time. You don't gotta go home, but you can't stay here.